Today, we're diving into a really wild 19th century vision of the afterlife. And it's not some far-off place in the clouds. No, it's right here, right under our feet. We're talking about a tangible eternity, a spirit world with its own physics and its own geography.
So let's just jump in with the big one. Where is the spirit world? Most belief systems have a pretty similar answer to that. But what we're about to explore is a total departure from the norm. So instead of thinking about death as this long journey to some distant heaven, early Mormon thinkers came up with this really mind-bending idea. What if the afterlife isn't a destination at all, but a dimension? An unseen layer of reality that's occupying the exact same physical space as our world right now. And look, this wasn't just some poetic metaphor. For them, the spirit world was a real physical place. It was governed by its own laws, it had its own geography, social structures, even jobs to do. It was, for all intents and purposes, a material eternity.
Okay, so how on earth does this work? Well, it all hinges on this one single concept that completely unlocks their entire worldview. It's this quote from Joseph Smith. This one idea just redefines the entire relationship between spirit and matter.
You see, this idea completely reorients everything you might think about the soul and the afterlife. So let's break down what it actually means for a spirit to be a fine or pure kind of matter. The key point here is that a spirit isn't made of nothing, not at all. It's made of something very real, just a substance that's so incredibly refined, our senses aren't tuned to pick it up. It's kind of like a radio frequency that's broadcasting all around you right now, but you can't hear it because you don't have the right receiver. So think about what that means for death itself. If that's true, then dying isn't about traveling somewhere new. It's about your own personal tuner getting adjusted. You're just shifting your perception to see the dimension that was already here the whole time. Okay, so if we've got this principle down, this idea of a layered, material reality, what does that unseen world actually look like? Well, they didn't just speculate, they literally mapped it out.
So here's the basic layout. You have our world, and then you have the spirit world occupying the same space. And the veil that separates them, it isn't some mystical wall or gate. According to thinkers like Parley P. Pratt, it's just a difference in density. It's a matter of physics.
Now, inside the spirit world, you've got two main zones. But this is not your typical heaven and hell. Paradise was seen as this busy, organized, celestial headquarters where people were preparing for the future. And spirit prison, well, it wasn't a dungeon. It was more like a giant classroom for anyone who still had things to learn.
Okay, this is where it gets really, really interesting. These two worlds, the one we see and the one we don't, they aren't isolated. Nope, they're designed to interact in this very specific, almost mechanical way. And the most famous piece of that machinery? It's the doctrine of baptism for the dead. This is the core mechanism that allows for that partnership, letting people in our gross matter world perform essential physical rituals for their ancestors who are over in the refined matter world.
But wait a second. This brings up a huge question, right? If spirits are material and they exist in a physical space, why in the world do they need our help for something like baptism? Why can't they just do it themselves?
And the answer, according to the Theology, is a specific rule in the system. It creates what you could call a cosmic dependency. The rule is, only a person with a physical gross matter body can perform a physical ordinance. This means the dead do the spiritual work, like teaching, and the living provide the necessary physical work. It's a true partnership.
So, when you put all of this together, this system of ongoing education, this cosmic partnership, it leads to a complete reinvention of the final destination for souls, especially when it comes to the traditional idea of hell. Joseph Smith just completely threw out the whole fire and brimstone model that was so popular in his day. He taught that hell wasn't some external torture chamber, it was an internal state of being. A person, he said, is their own tormentor, forced to face the anguish of their own choices. In this system, sin basically becomes a problem of physics. Imagine your spirit is made of this pure, refined matter, but your desires and actions are, well, gross. The conflict between those two states creates a kind of internal friction. That painful friction is the fire of hell.
Now, it's important to remember this idea wasn't set in stone from day one. It actually evolved. For a long time, many believed there was this great gulf separating paradise from spirit prison. But then, a key vision in 1918 by a leader named Joseph F. Smith completely transformed the system. It revealed that a missionary force had been organized in paradise to go and teach everyone in spirit prison.
And that one revelation, it basically finalized the whole system. Suddenly, the entire spirit world became this massive, universal university. Spirit prison wasn't a holding cell anymore. It was a preparatory school where every single soul could get access to tutors from paradise and keep on learning. So the big takeaway from all of this is a worldview where the universe has no empty spaces. The afterlife isn't some distant land. It's just the next room in the house, filled with people who are tuned to a different frequency. The dead aren't gone. They're just unseen. And all of this leaves us with a final, pretty haunting thought. If the veil between our worlds is really just a matter of density and perception, what does that imply about the very air around us? It suggests a reality that is far more crowded and far more connected than our senses could ever possibly detect.